Congratulations, we've made it this far, and welcome to the last Math Swag of the year. Reflection time. In Google Classroom, please view the responses from last swag by clicking on the Responses link. Which were your favorites? Which ones could really help? Please push pause and add your thoughts in the class comments section below. Now it's time to reflect on what went well for you over the last 6 weeks. Click on the What Went Well link in Google Classroom and add your thoughts.
Hello, Irving ISD math teachers. It's Tasha Hofert, your elementary math coordinator. First, I'd like to thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to participate in our virtual swag session. Let's talk a bit about the concrete pictorial abstract progression. Concepts need to be introduced through hands-on experiences with manipulatives. This is very important as you plan your daily math block. As you are choosing learning activities for any part of your math block, choose concrete task first. Then, when your students are ready, move them on to the pictorial phase. It's important for our students to know that a pictorial model helps us to make a mental image of the concrete that we've been using. With this progression, students should have enough context to understand an abstract task. So if your students are struggling with an abstract task, that tells you that you need to take them back through the progress. Thank you. Here's how that might look in your grade.
This is going to be an explanation on the 4th grade Countdown to STAR unit. This is a unit designed specifically for reviewing for STAR. It is a unit that is unique to what you've seen in in-grade so far. The first thing is that you're not going to follow it from top to bottom. You need to focus on what your data so far has shown you that students need. So you're going to look at your common assessments, district assessments, and after we take the STAR simulation, you're going to look at that data. And what you're going to see in the standard specificity is the bulk of your information. There's readiness standards listed only, and we've listed supporting standards as text to be scaffolded. Process texts aren't specifically listed because of dual coding. Those should be embedded, and we're not listing essential questions or vocabulary. And big ideas to consider are that category 2 is 24 questions on the test, so that's about half the STAR. 3/4 of the STAR test is going to be dual coded with the process, so again, process texts need to be embedded within the entire time that you're reviewing for STAR, as it has been within all your instruction all year. And then on the test, there is going to be 3 griddable answers, so ensure that your students are encountering free response and practicing those free response on the griddable. The griddable is going to have hundreds, tens in one place, and then a tenths and a hundredths place. I am going to review a 4.3D as it just has a lot of the information that's included for each of the texts. The first thing that you're going to notice for each text is that it has the category that the text is included in. 4.3D is included in category 2. This category is computation and algebraic relationships. This category is 24 questions. That doesn't mean that 4.3D is 24 questions. It means this category is 24 questions, and 4.3D is going to be some of the 24 questions. The next thing you're going to see is for scaffolding of this text, revisit 4.3C. If the students are still struggling with this text, that means go to 4.3C, and there'll be some usually concrete or pictorial models to help you scaffold the text. And that is a good time to remember that when we are teaching, that students need to encounter concrete experiences first, then move to pictures, then to the abstract representation. If for some reason this isn't there, that means that there is not a concrete or pictorial tech for our grade level. The next things when possible is just teaching information. These are links to short information about like things to think about when we're teaching this. When possible, there are Khan Academy videos, short videos to help us teach these to the students. Illuminations are videos, I'm sorry, not videos, but lessons to teach, to use for teacher use. Engage New York and TCM are very detailed lessons. I'm going to review both of those so you can kind of see what they are. Math tools are going to be tools that we have in our math box. And then thinking maps are going to be ideas that we can use to use thinking maps. And I'll also see these being used in centers. So I'm going to go over first an Engage New York lesson. The first thing is don't get overwhelmed with Engage New York, because sometimes you'll automatically see, like this one that we're looking at is 11 pages. But you'll find that some of these we don't have to use all the pages. I'm just going to show you, like there's the 11 pages. These lessons are usually broke down into 4 parts: fluency practice, application, concept, and student debrief. And the first thing I want you to see is you need to know where your students are. Do they need application? Do they need concept development? Like where are they at? So you need to look through the lesson and decide. Now, fluency practice, normally that's not going to be part of the objective of the lesson. So like this fluency practice is finding the quotient and remaining, finding equivalent fractions, and drawing equivalent fractions. These lessons are aligned to text, but we as curriculum writers have found that these are ones that we have aligned to our text at this time. So fluency practice won't be aligned to what this text is, but you may find that find a question and remainder. This is one of our texts. So my students might need to work on this. They may not. But in the case of this lesson, I don't need to do fluency practice. This isn't comparing fractions. So as a teacher, I would review this application problem, and I do see that my students need to work on this. So I would do this part of the lesson. And then here's concept development. And then I would go over this. Now, as a teacher, I'm looking at this again. I can go over this and exactly do this lesson how it is. I also might look at this and get the general idea and just go and do this. Now, there's also 2 or 3 problems. I might just do one problem. I might do all 3 of them. There's also a student debrief part. And then there's the student pages are at the end of the lesson. I just wanted to run through the whole lesson with you so you could see. So they all kind of follow the same format. The screen's got a little. Anyway, that's kind of the general makeup of an Engage New York lesson. Just use your teacher in head knowledge. And then the teacher created materials are informations that were used last year in summer school. These are going to open up to a file, and you're going to open the file. And when you open the file, there's a PowerPoint student guided page and teacher guide. The PowerPoint is a focused PowerPoint, a refocused PowerPoint. And when you run through that, these are just a PowerPoint you can use with the students or with a small group. One thing I do like PowerPoint is these last 2 questions at the end are really good. These would be really good to write by statements or have students reflect in their journals. The next thing you would want to look at is the teacher pages. This follows a 5E model. They don't necessarily call it that strictly, but that's basically what it is. This is the learning. I really like this part about student misconceptions. I'd read it because you may see some of your students in that, may be able to help them through the STAR review. These pages right here are the pages that are in the student guide. And then basically all of them follow, they have this warm-up, language and vocabulary. The whole group lesson is a I do, we do, you do. Then there's progress monitoring. And then there's a refocus part for students that are still struggling, math in the real world. And then again, this sentence frames are good places to come up with by statements and higher order questioning. And these lessons can take more than one day to do, as can the Engage New York. I'm just going to give you a glimpse real quick at the student pages. And those were the student pages. That's anything that says TCM in the lessons. And then the last thing that's also included in the lessons that wasn't enforced, there's some of these misconceptions from this math misconceptions, but it just talks about the things that why students may be specifically struggling with a concept. It can help you pinpoint to be able to help students more specifically during STAR review. One of the last things I want to discuss before we sign off here is this text solve problems that deal with measurement. There's so much specificity here: length, intervals of time, volume, mass, and money. And time is so precious during STAR review that this one is one that you can bundle. You can bundle 4.8C, length, time to a certain extent, but length and mass specifically, and liquid volumes with a 4.5B on input-output tables because of the creating conversion tables. And you can see these two lessons already have. And then you can also do the money with 4.4A, add and subtract decimals. And this has already done that here. So there are some opportunities to bundle 4.8C there. So I hope that you find the unit helpful as you get ready for STAR and that the students benefit from it.
Okay, so we're going to be walking you through how to access your AWARE report so that you can pull data from DCAs and from other district administered tests. So from the AWARE screen on the left-hand side, you will notice that it will list all of the courses that fall under your name. So for our purposes today, we're going to click on the GT Math, and you will have the option of selecting DCA 1, DCA 2. If you need to access other documents, they would be there as well. For our purposes, we're going to look at DCA 2, Mathematics. Okay, so when your report aggregates, this is the screen that you'll see. You'll have student names on the left and local IDs, but we've cut those out for confidentiality purposes today. You'll also see the demographic data, and then it'll give you your statistical data for that particular test. It'll offer you the raw score, the percentage score, whether or not the child met the satisfactory cut score, and whether or not they achieved commended advanced. It'll also list the date taken. Those vary depending on when your tests were scanned and when the testing window was opened. Okay, if you want more detailed data, what we're going to do is we're going to scroll up to the top where it says student scores. You'll notice that there's a drop down arrow. And one of the two reports that will be of interest to you is the Student Learning Standard Breakdown. So we're going to click on that. So for the Student Learning Standard Breakdown, what this does is it gives you the percentage performance on individual standards by each kid. So from this report, you can glean whether you have a TEK that needs to be retaught as a whole group or whether you need to target specific students for specific standards. If you scroll over the standard itself, it will pull up the actual standard so you can know what it is rather than just the number. And then the additional piece that we'll want to look at is also in the drop-down menu at the top. We're going to look at student individual responses. For student individual responses, what you'll see is what the correct answer is and the incorrect answers that your students selected in red. So for example, if this is my class, I am going to talk to my class about question number 5 because distractor C was the only other answer selected by the students. So I'm going to want to talk with my students about why they chose that particular answer and what the value of that distractor was. Okay, so any report that you pull in Aware, you can export either as a PDF or an Excel. Myself, I prefer the Excel because I can manipulate the data and move it around to suit the needs that I have at that particular time. So we're going to go ahead and export. When you export, you'll notice on the bottom left-hand corner, just above your Start option, the reports will aggregate, and you can click on those and it will ask you where you would like to save it. Okay, so once you export to Excel, you can reconfigure and you can also dump information that's not necessarily valid to you at this time. So for our purposes, we don't particularly need the special ed indicator, the LEP, the gender, or the ethnicity. So you can highlight those columns and delete them with just the data and the students' names. You can also organize through data the order in which the data appears for you. The only disadvantage to exporting to Excel is you don't have the ability to hover over the TEKS and have it tell you what the standards are. Okay, so but from this data you can manipulate and get the report the way you want it. Okay, so what we're going to be doing now is we're going to be looking at the review strategies for the 5th grade review unit, which is Unit 7. The problems that we've selected for today's demonstration are from the TEK 5.4b, and the first strategy we're going to talk about is called SCOOT, and you can find this in the resources section on the actual curriculum unit. So for SCOOT, what you will do is you will put your kids into groups of 4, and each desk will have a problem on it. After the students complete the problem, they are going to turn their problems over as such. And when all 4 members of the table have finished, they then scoot either clockwise or counterclockwise so that they can move to the next problem. When all 4 problems have been completed, the students will then converse with one another to determine an agreed upon answer for each one of the questions. And they will record each question answer onto a post-it and place it on the exit board at the front of the room. And that is the SCOOT review.
Take this moment to relax. Just think, in a few months, you could be at the beach. Please click on the square, triangle, circle link to complete this course. Congratulations!